Hi everybody, so it's the first day of our holiday home, and actually the weather is supposed to be quite pants the rest of the week, but as you can see it's beautiful blue skies. The wind's just picking up a bit. It's supposed to get quite stormy as the week goes on. I knew well growing up, so it's a walk from our main town nearest to us along the riverbank to the little village where I grew up. Back around, it's a circular, about a 5-mile walk, circular. It was an eel boat named Tigger, which is Kate's favourite character. So,
and it has a picture of
Tigger, yeah. And Daddy is just getting ready. He's ready. Let's go. So we'll go along. If we see anything interesting, we'll come back and show you. But as you can see, beautiful flat. We're lucky in the Fens that it is beautiful and flat. So walking is actually not such a strenuous activity as when you're in a hilly area, although we do like the scenery when we get out to somewhere that does have a bit more to offer than the flat Fens. So we're off to start our walk. We'll check in with you a couple of times along the route and show you what we see.
That's dangerous.
Okay, so we have just come up the steps across a little bridge. It just crosses a little tributary that comes off the river and goes in towards town. You can see over there our beautiful cathedral in the distance. Beautiful view right across the Fens. That really is a beautiful day actually. It's breezy, so it's not too hot, but the river is looking beautiful. We've seen a heron, seen lots of dragonflies.
Yeah, they're huge.
And over there you've got the crops which the Fens are known for. One of the big crop farmers. It's got all the fields covered in plastic, probably lettuce growing under there, I would think. So, yep, this is the first little stop along our route. So we came down from the riverbank at the village where I grew up, and right near the river is what used to be a stable area. You can see in here. And this was where I had a horse for a while when I was young. I did move it out to a bigger stables to end with, but when I first had a pony, we used to stable it down here by the river. That's just all overgrown. Same old stable buildings, just dilapidated. Quite sad really. The old apple tree has been there for years, that's standing in the background there. So yeah, 40 years ago this was a regular 40 plus years ago, this was a regular hangout for me down here by the river. You can see the riverbank is just there. We just came down those steps there. So we're now going to go up into the village and then take a different route back towards town. Okay, so you can see the cathedral over in the distance, I think, again there, if I can steady the camera enough to bring it in. There we go. So this is now the back of the village that I grew up in. There's Caleb, very close up. We've come along the riverbank, down and through the public footpath that now takes us back into town. I feel very lucky because I grew up in this area where we had all of these fields and kind of footpaths, and we just used to be out all summer like most kids back then, just exploring and playing games and hiding and building dens and all that sort of stuff. And the village itself, this end of the village looks very different. I haven't been down to this end of the village at all since we've been back, because the relatives I had lived at the other end of the village, and I just never made it down to this end. It looks very different, lots of new build houses, as with most villages these days, not quite so small anymore. It was a tiny little village when I was growing up. We had about somewhere around 60 children at the village school when I was growing up, and our year was 10, and that was the most there'd ever been in a school year in the village. But this little house in here, behind all these trees here, was where my uncle lived when I grew up. So this little footpath came down the back of his house, and this leads around to the village sports areas, and then there's a footpath back through nature reserve and back up to town. So that's where we're heading now. Okay, so on the homeward stretch, heading back up towards town. This is the last little bit. I love these kind of canopied walk-through areas or drive-through areas. Whenever I'm out driving or walking, I love these areas that kind of have the canopy of trees overhead. So we're about halfway back along the back footpath, which just across there on the other side of those trees is the main road that connects town with Cambridge. Back over there is the village, and we've got this nice little tree lined area to walk through now as we come back up towards town. And we're going to try to get back to town before the ice cream van closes for the day. So we have just come across this little family of swans here. We're in the algaeest part of this stream that runs through along the entire stretch of this walk. There's 2 parents, and we think there might be 6 cygnets. They're quite big now. Some of the people in our local area, certainly in the village where I grew up, on their Facebook page have been posting their journey from when they first hatched them. But they have all grown well. See, there's the closest one here. Bit of a lone ranger out by himself, and then the others are all up near mum and dad. But very green water, but for them that's not a problem. Obviously getting all the algae and the bugs out of the water is good for them. But they've been nesting in this area. It's kind of a nature reserve at the back of the village, and they have been nesting. And as I say, their progress has been followed. So quite excited to actually see them. I thought they'd been seen recently much further down towards the village. We're almost back up to town now. So I don't think they've been seen this far up too often. But that's obviously where they've decided to hang out today. So quite happy to see them. Morning everybody. So it's day 2 of our staycation holiday, and this morning we've come to one of our favourite restaurants locally for breakfast, so taking advantage of the Eat Out to Help Out scheme. This is a local restaurant that has 2 locations in our local area. The one closest to us is the most recently opened one, and they do sort of American style food, so it's not really an American restaurant, but they do a lot of American style things. So for breakfast they have pancakes and things like that. So we decided we'd come out for a breakfast. First time we've been out to eat since lockdown, going in somewhere, so quite an experience. We called at the weekend to try and book, and this time slot, Tuesday morning, was the only available slot left, Monday, Tuesday or Wednesday. So that's how popular this program has been in the area. But we're off to get some breakfast, and then the weather has turned rubbish today, so I'm really glad we went out for that walk yesterday, because today it's windy, it's raining, not as bad as it is in some parts of the country I think, but I think it's moving from west to east, so we'll probably get it worse as the day goes on. But it is currently, the wind is picking up and the rain has been coming down all morning. So we're off to get our breakfast. Caleb, you ready?
Yeah.
Yeah? You looking forward to breakfast?
Yeah.
Yeah? Not really sure? No. And Tony's got his mask on, ready to go. We're not sure what the rules are going to be about having a mask on going in. So we're off to get breakfast. I will probably take a clip inside just of what we've got on our plates, but we might not talk depending on how closely we are sitting to, I mean, it's obviously going to be at least 2 meters, but how close we are to the next tables, and it's obviously quite busy. So we may just do a clip of what we've actually got for breakfast. But yeah, looking forward to this. Okay, so breakfast has just been served. Tony's got pancakes with maple syrup, bacon and eggs. He's got extra pancakes, so it came with 3 and he's got an additional 3 because it's pancakes. Caleb has got sausage, bacon, egg, toast and a big glass of orange juice. Tony's got a bigger glass of orange juice. I've got a lovely cappuccino, and I've got the farmhouse breakfast, which is eggs, bacon, sausage, hash brown, a huge mushroom, baked beans and some toast, and then we've got a little assortment of jam. And the very grey day, we can just see the cathedral right there. We had the lovely views of it in the sun yesterday, and today it's much greyer and very grey and rainy day, but we're going to tuck in and enjoy our breakfast. You ready, boys? Yep. Okay, so we're back in the car, having enjoyed a really lovely breakfast. It was really nice just to sit and eat breakfast actually all together. Food was really good. filling, and we only paid just over £15 for breakfast with the Eat Out to Help Out scheme, so that made it even better. So certainly couldn't have, don't think, cooked all that food at home for £15, or they probably could, but you know, the faff of cooking it would have been certainly worth the value. So it's probably the only chance we're going to get as a family to use Eat Out to Help Out. I think the boys had lunch at McDonald's the few days before Tony went back to work, when he and Caleb were still at home. So they'd had one lunch at McDonald's, but just a couple of times. But certainly a good programme, and the restaurant was full. The tables were changing constantly while we were in there. So yeah, a good breakfast, but a miserable day. So I think we're going home now, and day 2 of our staycation will be pretty much an around the house lazy kind of day, I think. And then we'll see what tomorrow brings in terms of weather. Hi, so it's Sunday afternoon, towards the end now of our week off, and we've come out for another walk, again just in our local area. This is a really nice place. It's right in town, kind of in the middle, not far from where my mum lives actually, and one of our big supermarkets. And out the back there's this lovely area. It's a nature area. There's pits like this which are ideal for fishing, but they're also breeding grounds for birds. And then there's cow fields and kind of free range meadows that have been left with hedgerows planted back in them to encourage wildlife back. And it is just a really pretty area. We don't come down here often enough. Tony comes and rides his bike through here a lot, but Caleb and I rarely come down here, and we really should come more often because it really is quite peaceful and pretty. It's a gloomy Sunday afternoon. There's the boys over there. We have ordered dinner from Nando's as a treat. But they're doing takeaway only, so we're going to pick that up on our way back. So we came out for a late afternoon walk, and then we will stop and get some food on our way back and go home for a nice dinner. Thankfully the rain's held off. This morning looked really gloomy, then it brightened up a bit over lunchtime, and just as we were getting ready to come out, the clouds came back across again, but it seems to have held off. There's some blue in the sky up there, as you can see. There's Caleb with his new togs on from our shopping trip the other day.
When we got sushi.
When we had sushi, yes. So yeah, I just thought I would share with you. We are really lucky. During lockdown we shared some walks with you that we took just around our village, which has some lovely walkways, but this is just in the nearest town to us. So we went one way on Monday afternoon when we went out, and this is the opposite direction, and still kind of following the river and the railroad tracks. So a little bit further round on our walk, and you can see we're back along this river. So way down there and out that way is where we walked the other day. So this is back the other side of town, but we're still kind of following the line of the river. Caleb, what have you found?
A tiny little blackberry.
Yeah, there's loads of blackberries along these bushes. You can see here, there's loads that are just getting ready to turn. Not quite ready yet, a couple of weeks, and these will have been picked clean.
Shall I eat them?
And don't eat that one because it's too small. You want a proper big juicy berry if you're going to eat one. But you can see these bushes all the way along have been loaded with blackberries. So
This one. That one looks nice.
okay, you can try it then.
It might be sour.
I used to love going blackberry picking when I was young. I think I've said that in another video. My uncle, his family farm had blackberry hedgerows all around it, and we used to go a weekend in September. Aunts and uncles all used to gather, and we used to go blackberry picking, and we'd eat more than we put in our pot, I think, sometimes. And we would just then harvest them and then go home and make blackberry jam, blackberry and apple crumble, which is my favourite pudding, blackberry and apple pies. You can see these are just loaded. It's quite unusual these days to still find kind of quite areas quite in the middle of kind of an urban setting that still have a lot of blackberry bushes. A lot of them, the hedgerows have been cut down and they're just not there, but that's one of the beauties of this area. It's kind of just kept natural. So might have to come back over here with my pot in another week when these red ones you can see in there are all fully there's still some really green ones up there too, so just all the way up to the top, which nobody's going to be able to pick those, so the birds will have their pick from those, and therefore they will probably be the nicest berries up there. A lot of them are quite small. Don't know if that's just this season or whether it's this type of berry, but there are some nice big juicy ones on there, so I might be back with a pot soon. And you can see some information. There's lots of information boards around here. This is the Riverside Meadow, which is a really lovely meadow, but it's currently a breeding habitat for wading birds, which are in decline in the UK. So they're asking people to stay out of this area just to allow the birds to breed during the summer season. You can see just the tip of the cathedral over there. So that's always, when you're out in the Fens, it's always a way to kind of find your bearings, is you can find the cathedral. And then across on the other side of the river, that white roof over there is actually a really lovely wedding venue. It's an old country hall and they do weddings there. It's a really pretty venue because actually from there you get a lovely view across to the cathedral, just across the flat fens. But you can see there's another big meadow on the other side of the river. That one is not as easy to get to, so it doesn't have as much foot traffic as this side of the river does. But yeah, we just thought we'd bring you along on these little walks that we've had this week, just to show you some of the sights of the area in which we live, which is really quite beautiful in its own strange way. And actually there's a deer, a little muntjac. Let me see if I can find him there. Caleb, a deer! Look! Caleb, look! A deer!
Oh yeah, a little deer.
Where's Daddy?
Daddy.
So, the little muntjac deer, which is quite common in this area. It's our most common sort of deer that we see. I'm just out for a little stroll on a Sunday afternoon like us. That's a bit of a highlight for us. We don't see them very often, only early in the morning when we're driving to work. So another day and another little Swanny family. This one's got 4 babies as well, but this is definitely not the same family we saw the other day. And these have got the nice wide open river to explore rather than the grungy algae ridden pond or stream that the others had. But this has got a pair and 4 cygnets. Quite interested in us, so I think that's the difference. Down here near town, more likely to be fed by people walking along the banks, because as we stopped they immediately showed an interest and came up. There's a little cut in the bank there. They came right up into there to see whether we'd got anything for them. But they are quite a handsome little family. There's the 4 cygnets all together there, and Mum and Dad is back there. You can see his white feathers through there. He's just hanging out behind the reeds still. But what a pretty family. Yeah, there are more hens just flapping around chasing each other across the water.
I call them ducklings.
You called them ducklings?
Instead of ducklings, I called them ducklings.
No, they're not. They're more hens. Look, pretty swans. There's something very peaceful about a swan floating along the river. I think just different to ducks, aren't they? Because they are so big and yet they are quite graceful. And we have really good breeding programs around here for swans. They do well. We have the moot swans and the Buick swans that come in from Russia. We have big nesting grounds over winter where you can go and see the swan feeding in the winter months. Near us there's a RSPB have a wetland centre out here, so it's a really popular area. When you drive out into the Fens at certain times of the year, you just see fields full of swans. So really a popular sight around here, a common sight around here. But because of that, we have these lovely swans that breed along our riverbeds, and they seem to do it quite successfully and raise 4 or 5 chicks, cygnets, into adults every year. So yep, that's our second little swan episode this week. Okay, so another day of our staycation week and another nature trail. That's kind of been the theme of our week. But interestingly, we walked north of our town along the riverbank, we walked south of our town along the riverbank, and today we've come out to the east to a little... So a month or so ago there was a TV show, one of those kind of Year in the Wild shows for the Fenland area, and they referenced a place where they'd reintroduced water buffalo back to help with conservation and the environment. And after the show we just looked it up and found it's kind of 6 miles from our house, and we just never even knew it existed. So there is a much bigger National Trust property out in this area which is very popular and we've visited many times, but this is something called Kingfishers Bridge. So it's privately owned and provides a refuge for threatened and endangered wildlife of the Fens. So they've kind of reintroduced a natural habitat into this area and reintroduced lots of natural species that had disappeared from the Fenland. And so we're off to see what we can find, but some friends were here yesterday and they definitely saw the water buffalo, so we're looking forward to that. But we're off for a walk and we'll show you what we find. Okay, so this is our first stop and it's on top of a rather large mound. It's actually got a hide in it, which is not open at the moment because of COVID. It's got some benches. Say hi, Caleb.
Hi.
And you can see some of the Fenland ponies. I forget what these ponies are called, but they're Russian, I think, ponies. And they've got them in several spots around the Fens. You can see there's a young foal in there. And they're at one of the watering holes. I think they're called conic ponies or something like that.
That foal was born, has only like 2 weeks old because
It was born when you were here?
It was just being born.
Okay, it had just been born. And then there's a beautiful big lake over there. And then the little gap in the trees looks like it's been purposefully left because once again there's our beautiful cathedral over in the distance there. It's almost like it's been purposely left for that. Now, we had to wait for some other people to leave from up here, and right over here, just sort of in there, is where the herd of buffalo were just heading. But they've gone behind that mound now, so I can't see them. So we'll look out for them to pop back out.
Yeah, along the fence line.
I don't know if that is all of the buffalo or if there's actually more somewhere. But there's also, Caleb mentioned when he was here last time, out kind of on the back side of this lake over in that area, there were some pigs just enjoying the water. So pigs in the water in the river.
There's like a whole classroom of pigs.
A classroom full of pigs.
There's about 30.
About 30 pigs. Yeah, so we're just going to watch out to see if the buffalo come back, but I think they've gone along that fence line, so we may not see them until we come back around. But if they're heading that way, we're parked just over there, so we may see them when we get back to the car park. So we've now walked around. That mound up there is where we just were, with the little building on the top there. That's where we were just, and now we're down the bottom and you can see the other side of the horses. So, and really pretty through here, lots of butterflies and insects flying around, and as you can see, like felled trees and just all left kind of the way nature intended it, but just with the footpaths cleared to give a nice walkway. So we're going to carry on round and see what else we can find. Okay, so we just came across this little clearing, and on the other side of the bank are the piggies. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think there might be 3 in the back there.
3 right there.
And I think there's 3 there.
6,
Oh, sorry, my finger's in the way.
8. There's 9.
There's 9.
And there's a couple
So
back there.
Caleb said this little piece of rope here is to stop them crossing. Actually, that rope, they don't like to jump, pigs, at all. So actually that rope is enough for them to not want to get over, although what stops them getting over here, I don't know.
Yeah, when we
But
when
look,
we,
they're actually really cute for piggies.
when we come,
Look at his cute little face.
They were bathing in the water all the way up here.
The piggies are actually cute piggies. They're not too big. I'm not quite sure what breed they are. I think they're purposefully quite small ones.
They're all
But-
got black and pink.
Black and pink, yeah. They are actually really cute.
They remind me of Licky in a way. Probably
So-
could be a guinea pig.
A little clearing, obviously just for the pigs back here because it's just all mud.
And
like
there's a couple of swans down
the
there.
the overgrown kind of heather and grasses behind have all kind of been trampled down in this area. So I assume they just live in this little bit here, but I don't know what they feed on. What would they feed on?
The people
They
come down
get
here
fed.
regularly go through there and it will hide back there.
Okay. So, oh, there's one getting up over here. Look. Oh, look at him.
Reminds you
What a cute little
so going for a
piggy.
bath.
People.
I think he might be going for a bath.
He's going for a bath. Oh, look. How cute are they? He's going to get a drink.
From algae.
Just be careful, piggy.
He's sniffing the algae. Got someone in his mouth.
He's making a little passageway so he can get a drink. Listen to that.
That noise is so satisfying. It's like an oinking with water.
They just sink into the mud, but they don't care. And this one has gone back to sleep, just sort of sitting up, and his eyes have closed back again, and he's just sort of gone back to sleep.
There's a little one over there.
Yeah.
He's
There's two cuddling together
And then he
there.
woke back
One
up.
with lots of black spots and one with hardly any.
I didn't know pigs had fur.
Yeah, they've got fur.
Yeah.
It's not very thick fur. It's just like a skin with a hairy skin.
Like your
Look
hair.
at that one. His ears flopped over his face.
Got a night mask.
He's got his night sleeping mask on. And some are just by themselves, like that one and that one and that one. And then others are sleeping in little gangs. Oh, they are too cute. So glad we found these. Look at his little curly tail.
Yeah, all pigs have curly tails.
I know, but that's very cute little piggy.
His
So now we are all the way around. So over there is the little mound where we started. And this is the gap in the trees where I said it almost looked like the tree gap had been left on purpose. So there's a swan just took off. I think he went back down again. You can hear the birds if I just be quiet for a moment.
They sound like dogs, cats and monkeys.
Yeah, they sound more like dogs, cats and monkeys than birds. But then if we turn around over this way, you can see through the gap there again, it's the cathedral. It's called the Ship of the Fens for a reason. You can always kind of find it on the landscape because everything is so flat. And so it kind of takes you back towards Ely, no matter where you are in the Fen. So back in the days when there were no proper roads and Ely was surrounded by water, the Ship of the Fens kind of guided you back to Ely along the riverways. So we've made it all the way back around, and you can see the buffalo have come back along the fence line. They're not quite close enough. The people that we knew that came yesterday, they were really up close to the tree line over kind of where the pigs were. So they were really visible behind the trees, within the trees. But these, you can see them along the fence there. So water buffalo were originally a natural animal for this area. The Fenland area, with it being very wet and boggy, and then over the years, over hundreds of years ago, they disappeared entirely. So this plan to reintroduce them is to kind of provide some natural balance back to the ecology of the area. So there's a small herd, but I believe they are a breeding herd, so the aim is to grow them over the years. But be interesting to come back out a couple of times a year. Different seasons, I think, would be really pretty through here. Just to see how they're doing and maybe get a chance of getting a much closer shot. They seem to be in that middle bit between the pigs were over that way. You see the gap in the trees over there, and then the hide and the mound is over that way. So they're sort of in between the two. It's electric fencing all along here, so they obviously do come through this part. But no sign of them over here today, which is a bit of a pity, but you can just see them off in the distance there. So it's been a lovely afternoon, a lovely walk to end our week of walks. We hope you've enjoyed this little journey with us through some of the Fenland scenery and wildlife. And we're going to close it off here, get home, have our dinner and get ready for the return to normal schedule again from tomorrow. So thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you back here on the SeeSaw soon.